Well, our story is a little complicated.
You were like the one thing in my life at that point that was making me really happy.
I was crying almost. All right.
How did we meet? And what was your first impression of me?
We went to college together and we're both in Greek life. And so I know we had met a couple times at parties, but I do remember talking to you at one party. And then afterward, I remember thinking he was really funny. I'd like to talk to him more. And so I asked my friend Amanda for your Snapchat. And that was a good choice. Yeah, so I think my first impression of you is just like, oh, he's really cute and really funny. I remember you, like, I couldn't tell you what we talked about, but I remember you made me laugh a lot.
That sounds...
Why did you decide to start dating me?
I decided to start dating you because it was like in the middle of COVID, and I was pretty lonely in Seattle because my roommate had just started dating someone, and I didn't really have anything to do all day at all. And then we started FaceTiming. I always thought I would date you in the future, and I think it was just kind of like when things kind of lined up. And so that's when I decided to come out here and talk to you and hang out with you and go to Steamboat.
What was our first date like?
I would call our first date Bojo's in Steamboat. We got a Dude Ranch pizza.
Yeah.
And we were both starving after driving for like 5, 6, 7 hours. And just laughing and having a great time.
How did you work up the courage to ask me out?
It took me a little bit. You know, we were both like dating other people at different times, so we never knew kind of what was going on. And finally decided it when I was super kind of just down on the dumps. And you were like the one thing in my life at that point that was making me really happy.
That's so sweet.
Mm-hmm. Was it love at first sight?
I just kind of always knew, but the timing wasn't right for us. Like I just had this gut feeling that we were gonna date and end up together, but it was always just a timing thing. And then we were patient, and then a global pandemic happened, and you moved across the country, and so a lot of big things. But I feel like, at least for me, I just kind of always knew, like even before like I knew I loved you, I just knew you were special. I think you've always just made me feel really happy and special and just very comfortable, because I feel like it takes a certain level of comfort to laugh with somebody and make someone laugh, and like we just instantly, we've always had that. I've never had a time that I remember with you where we like weren't laughing and having fun.
Yeah.
Like even when we're having, I feel like, a fight or a serious conversation, I feel like even in the middle of it, one of us will like say or do something kind of dumb, and we'll just start laughing, or the dog will do something funny. So I think that there's just that like level of comfortability there.
I agree.
Who said I love you first, and how did it happen?
You said I love you first, and it was after I had just moved from Seattle to Denver, which was a little weird because we had just been flying back and forth to see each other. So it was like first time we were actually living in the same state. And so we had just gone to dinner for, I think, Valentine's Day. And we came back and we're just hanging out, having time to have conversations between each other. And you said it. And it's been going well since then.
Yeah. How did you know it was real love?
I felt like something that my parents had told me is always to date your best friend. And I felt like that wasn't something that I had ever really experienced beforehand with other relationships. And with how many adventures we have together and how often we laugh together, it really felt like that the first time. What is your favorite way we spend time together? And what is your most memorable moment?
I think we both get a little antsy when we like stay home
Yeah.
too much. And we're always like planning our next adventure. Remember that one time we went to Arches for my birthday, and I was afraid that we weren't going to be able to get in because it was still semi-COVID and they had restrictions on how many people could get in. So that's how I knew that you loved me, is I made you get up super early before the sunrise, and
Yeah.
we drove into Arches before the sun was even up, and then we watched the sunrise at Arches.
With
And
burritos.
yeah, and we ate burritos. That was like the cherry on top was those burritos.
Yeah.
But just being with you and like especially seeing you see that for the first time.
Yeah.
And the sunrise was gorgeous. Yeah.
No, I love that.
Yeah. What has been the hardest part of our love story, and how have we overcome these challenges?
I think when we first started dating, our vulnerability was definitely like the hardest part and getting past that. I think what we did to overcome that, especially from like my part, I feel like you're very good at explaining how you feel and communicating that. But for like myself, I never grew up in a household where you could talk about how you feel or your emotions. Like a lot of it got bottled up. So for me, that was the hardest part, was getting to a point where I felt comfortable expressing how I felt about like either what you were doing or how I was feeling in myself. And I think overcoming that, it's become one of our strengths in communicating, because now I feel the need to actually go to you and tell you how I'm feeling, or I get all stressed out.
Yeah.
Was there ever a make or break moment in our relationship?
I think, yeah, there was a point where I was like ready to be more vulnerable and you weren't quite there, and I was like, hey, I need you to be more vulnerable for this to work. And I think you realized
Yeah.
that shortly after, and we did like a lot of like work on ourselves and with each other and talking. And that's like, there was a moment we started journaling, because I've always journaled, and I asked you to do that with me. And like just seeing you do that and seeing like everything that you like wrote, even the first time
Yeah.
we journaled together, I was like, wow, he actually has such great like insight into his own mind. And I just wanted to I wanted to know you even more and on just a deeper level. And so I feel like there was a point where we had to learn more vulnerability. And it was like hard.
Yeah.
I think just knowing, because we had been dating for a little bit, and I knew I wanted you and I wanted a future with you, and it was a little scary putting myself out there and knowing, oh, is he going to do the same? Is he not? But we got there, and we figured it out.
Yeah.
What makes our relationship special?
I always think that we're always continuously dating each other. And that's something that always makes me like super happy, and we both have a great time with it. And also our adventuring, with how like spontaneous we can be sometimes and how much we just say yes to everything that we both want to do. I think like something like I think everyone's parents teach them is always to date their best friend. And I don't think I've ever been in a relationship before where I felt that need fulfilled of having as much fun as we have, while also having those just nice Sunday afternoons where neither of us really wants to do anything, and we can sit around with like just coffee in the morning and watch shows and have that time to relax, but also have that need for adventure and fulfillment. What do I do that makes you feel special?
I think I love that you make an effort to date me, because we've been together almost 2 years, and you are still like, it can be like, oh, well, there's a snowstorm, but I'm going to cook you dinner. Or, I want to take you to this festival and let's do this together, or let's try this fun thing. Or with last fall, I came over after work and you said, hey, the Albuquerque Balloon Festival is next weekend. Do you want to go? And, just driving down together and having that fun adventure.
Yeah.
So I just love that you just make a continuous effort to date me. And it can be literally something as simple as like having like Topo Chico on my balcony and talking.
Yeah.
Just something simple like that. But it just really means a lot that we set aside the time together to do that. How have we grown together as a couple and as individuals?
I think now that we've gotten past that vulnerability part, it's actually like one of my favorite parts about us now, is that we are able to express how we feel, and then also able to work through things a lot more easily because we've been able to express ourselves in a more healthy way. Because that can be so difficult, and I think people undermine how difficult that is. Once you're able to get to that piece, I think it's one of the best strengths that we have. What advice do you have for keeping a relationship healthy?
Continuing to schedule in times for dating and intimacy, I think that's just so key to continue to date each other. And then I think working on and learning about healthy communication. We've also listened to some podcasts and learned like a lot of little tidbits instead of like saying, oh, like you're annoying me because you didn't do the dishes, saying like, I feel really annoyed that the dishes are not done. Can we help and work that out together? Like saying, rephrasing what's going on in a much more positive way and just taking everything as like we are a team together and just never forgetting like it's never like we're partners first and everything else is second.
Yeah, I like that.
What was the biggest lesson you learned from dating?
I think being vulnerable, again. I think it's like very difficult, especially if you come from like a growing up in an area where like you don't have the expectation to share your feelings, especially as like a guy, everyone tells you to bottle everything up and not talk about your emotions a lot. So when you get outside of that and people are telling you how to express them, you have to go from like not sharing anything to oversharing to managing like how you share those and communicating those healthy, which is like a huge span of things. And I think that's something that I've really developed with as we've grown together as a couple. How different or similar are our personalities, and how has that positively or negatively impacted our relationship?
I think that we're both extroverted, but I think you're a little bit more extroverted than I am.
A little bit.
And I'm a little more calm sometimes. So sometimes you get excited and I get more calm. But then I feel like I get kind of how you were saying. I really like things more clean and organized, and you are not naturally that way. But I think that I've been able to like show you a lot of that, and I think that you've been able to help me let go of things a little bit more, which has been really nice and helped me manage some stress.
Yeah.
How did you used to approach problems?
I felt like we either both were like trying to bulldoze our opinion forward, or we would either not address it at all, which are both not healthy at all.
Yeah.
And I think that made it really difficult for us to really connect on a deeper level. And I think what we've changed so far has definitely helped us
Yeah.
to have much better conversations and just to be like a lot more confident in each other, looking out and respecting each other's boundaries and opinions.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that happened a lot before.
Yeah.
Yeah. What happened to reach the point where you had to work on vulnerability? Do you have any specific stories?
I think we did just get to a point where we just weren't talking to each other about like our past or like deeper problems or even some of the more simple problems. And it kind of got to a point where I felt like I had started to share, but I wasn't getting that from you. You had shared some things about your past, and I think that like really helped just me to like see a different side of you. Like for example, can I talk about your mom?
Sure.
And her.
Yeah.
Like so, you had mentioned that your mom had cancer when you were in high school, but pretty much that was like I had known that fact, and that was as much as we had covered for almost a year of dating.
Yeah.
And then we got to a point where, like you told me the story, and I'm like, I was crying almost. Just like hearing like how you cared for your mom, like when she had cancer and how hard that was for you, and like hearing more of those details. Yeah, just seeing like that side of vulnerability really made me see that this is like you're who I want to be with.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that you shared that with me.
Yeah.
Ooh. I'm like crying. Crying in the club.
You okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It always brings tears to my eyes when I think about that.
Mm-hmm.
Like happy tears though. It's good
Okay.
to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
I love you.
Me too.
Yeah. What was the most useful piece of relationship advice you received?
I think the most important piece of relationship advice we have received has been always to be working on communication. I mean, that's such a vital part of every relationship that people, I think, always just are like, oh, I assume we have really good communication. But actually getting to the point of where you can go through like really difficult conversations and come out at the end in a very like respectful and easy way is really important, and that's not always the cleanest way. It's messy and it's really difficult to get to the point where you have that communication piece really on hand. And so I think that's the best piece I've ever received, is to always be working on that. I don't think that's something I've worked on in past relationships, and I'm really glad that we've had the opportunity to do it in this relationship.
I think to really have that true open vulnerability in a relationship, and just knowing that this person is here for you and they're going to accept you no matter what, but you have to kind of show them who you are in order to get that deeper connection. Like I think I showed you my favorite TED Talk, The Power of Vulnerability by Brene Brown. I watched that like years before we even started dating, but it didn't really click
Yeah.
until we started dating. And I think we kind of got to a point, and I thought back to that TED Talk, and I was thinking, oh, there's some good advice. Maybe I should rewatch it. And I asked you to watch it with me. And I think that also really just helped to get us really on the same page.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. How do you feel?
I feel good. I didn't expect myself to get emotional.
Yeah.
But then again, I am an emotional person. So
No.
yeah, I really liked getting to just talk with you about this. I think it was like a great, like fun date idea. And
Definitely something different.
yeah, something different for sure.
Yeah.
We're always up for anything. But I feel just like I know you even more. Every
Yeah.
time I talk to you, I get to know you even more. How about
Yeah.
you? How do you feel?
I felt good. I think it's always good to like communicate how we're feeling, and always good to look back and kind of see where we've come from. Not that we really struggle at points like during a relationship, but I think everyone does. And it's always great to look back and realize all the work that we've put on really matters. And it gets us to a point like today where we're both really happy and really enjoying life and really love the experiences that we get to have together.
Guess we should head out.
Yeah.